Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I am joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Constantly thinking about how to pronounce the person who we're going to be talking about today's name is. Well, we've got a lot.
Existential crisis we've just had before recording.
Exactly. You all listening should be thankful that you were not listening to what we were just talking about, because it was insanity and both of us looked into the eye of a black hole and we did not survive.
Oh, goodness.
Because today we're talking about the data miner Temporyal is how we were thinking it was pronounced.
That's how I pronounce it. I don't know how correct that is. But
yeah. We've also heard Temporyal, which I don't know, sounds kind of fancy. I like Temporyal. So that's what we're going to go with today. So let's jump right in. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other shows, Star Wars Uplink and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink podcast and StarWarsUplink.com. However you pronounce his name, or their name, because I don't. It's just
yeah,
a
true.
gold
He's got
digger.
a little, yeah,
cartoon guy,
yeah.
and a black header on Twitter. Almost 27,000 followers on Twitter as well, and is all about data mining, and we have a crap ton of new details around that. Sammy, what are you most excited about in this massive drop?
The one that stood out to me was from April 22nd, and he's going on about the potential rework of the specialist, which we know that's the next feedback loop or whatever, that's what they're going to be talking about. So we know that is something that's like going to be talked about. We don't really know to what extent yet.
Mm-hmm.
But he's mentioned that there's actually some new files that were added with update 4.0, and it's added a class selection, progress, and level like reference in there somewhere, as well as a new in-game class description that says combat medics can increase a unit's survivability through their ability to revive and boost team health. So obviously data mining, we should probably just get that out of the way straight away. It doesn't confirm anything. There's been plenty of stuff data mined in heaps of other games that it just never comes to fruition. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about with Battlefront 2. There was data mined voice lines talking about characters that it sounded like they were going to be added next, and then they just never did. So it doesn't necessarily confirm anything. There's probably millions of files in Battlefield 2042.
And they could be carryovers from previous games, as we've seen from most Star Wars games from EA. They have references to even Project Ragtag, which got canceled years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing with the combat medic thing, is that could just be talking about like Portal, because there's obviously classes in Portal, so there's not enough context there to know what any of this is talking about. But just the fact that these were added in update 4.0, that's the part that's kind of like, I guess, piqued my curiosity a little bit. So that, combined with the fact they're talking about that soon, it I guess bodes well that maybe we are actually going to get that rework where they put the specialists into classes or whatever they're going to do. We're not really sure. And we should be getting news on that within the next 2 weeks, I'd imagine. So
I believe so.
Not too far away. But yeah, I thought that was probably the most interesting one. He's tweeted a bunch of stuff, so there's actually quite a bit.
So many. Yeah, I hope that they go with a class selection. I think they're just prepping themselves. Maybe they put some other things to make it easier if that's the route that they go in the future. Again, we're still part of the next one that they're going to be having in terms of that feedback loop is all about specialists. So they're probably actively working on things and then are going to pitch what they've been working on to get feedback and hear what we all have to say, both good and bad, in terms of what they will be working on. I mean, that would be the dream, is if classes come back.
Yeah, I think that's like the main thing, because I think update 4.0, it made the game actually like I think we're now at the state where the game is actually, say what you will about the actual design choices and stuff, but the actual game is very playable now. It's actually in a decent state in terms of there's barely any bugs that I've come across, and it just feels a lot more stable. There's a bit of performance boost, so it feels like the game now is in a stable spot, but there's still a lot of those more subjective things that we just don't like. They're not necessarily objectively worse. Like, obviously bugs and imbalances there, they are objectively bad for a game, whereas something like the Specialists isn't quite as objective, but I think majority of us all will kind of agree that it's just not really it. So I think that's the main thing now is, they've already talked about the maps. They're improving them, and hopefully we get more maps in the future that are good as well. So that's kind of taken care of, obviously not in-game, but they've shown they're going to do that. And now for me, the main thing is the Specialists. That's really the only main thing standing out that is a big issue. So hopefully they go with the class. I think the middle ground is perfect. Just put the Specialists. They can't remove the Specialists. It's just too ingrained in the game. Just put the Specialists into classes, and maybe what they do with the weapons, I'm not sure whether they lock them to classes again, or personally I like it being open. I want to play as Sundance with a sniper. I think that's fun. I don't think it ruins anyone else's experience, so I hope they don't lock that, but I won't be
I'm
too
fine
mad
with
if
it
they
either
do.
way.
But that's the type of thing where it's like, I'm willing to take one for the team if the whole community doesn't like that. Even though I like it, it's like, whatever. If everyone else is going to be happy and it gets a bit of positivity going, I'm happy to just deal with that, and I'll just play Casper instead of Sundance when I'm sniping or something. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I think that, personally, I just think that's easily the best
I
way
think
to
just
go.
they need to add more Specialists to make it more variance in terms of the flow in each of those.
Yeah.
We don't even know if it'd be 4 classes. It could be more than 4 classes. Who knows? 3 classes, 2 classes, as long as it's not 1. Because it's. I think like the overarching theme of this game is, they went for so many different aspects and they weren't able to master any one thing. So it became very disjointed.
Yeah.
And I think adding Specialists back would be a great move in terms of simplifying things and making it easier for the flow of gameplay and much more predictable. You know for sure that you're about to get into a skirmish with this person. You know their abilities, and you know maybe even the weapons that they have in store for you. And you can be a lot more strategic, and you can have those experiences where you're like, okay, I know that I can take this person, so I'm going to engage in this firefight beforehand because I at least know somewhat of a foundational difference between this person or Specialist and this Specialist. I think that'd be good. And in terms of like, would I prefer them to have weapons locked to each thing? I think at this point they need to have them open until they add more weapons, and then once they add more weapons, I think it's a good move to lock them like they normally do with classes.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. I think if there's enough choices, and I think even having it, in the past it's often been, for example, the support class in Battlefield 5, they could essentially only use LMGs. Maybe if they make it like 2 weapon classes, so the medic class can have an SMG or an AR, for example, having a bit of a different choice there. And then even like, the maybe whatever the sniper class, the recon class, whatever it will be, that can have a sniper and, I guess the DMRs would be in there as well. But even just having like some other alternative, so maybe even an LMG or something, just having a bit more freedom, I think has been good with the weapons. But I also do see the point that you make where it was kind of good in the old games where you see a certain skin and you go, I know what they have. Like, I don't have to go, oh, does he have a sniper or does he have a shotgun? I don't know. That predictability is kind of, I think that is a good thing for the game. So I pretty much agree completely with what you said. Right now, there's not enough weapons to tie it to one class, because if you can only choose between the 3 snipers, for example, or even in every class, there's only like 4 weapons, that'll be... Yeah, I don't think that'll work. But in the future, if they end up with a bunch of weapons, or let's just say they add the portal weapons in or something, and there's like 60 weapons, then
the specialist is like a band-aid over a gigantic gaping wound because of, I mean, if you look at it as a whole, if you did lock weapons behind certain classes, there aren't enough of them. Like, just being honest here, there aren't enough of them. They kind of they didn't have enough time to implement the number of weapons that they needed to, and I could totally see them being like, well, we can just open up all of the weapons for everybody, and then that makes it a lot more easy, and then you can have attachments and all that kind of stuff. Because, like, specialists in and of themselves, it would make more sense for them to be limited on how or what weapons they can use because they're specializing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember having that conversation, I think just after the beta, and we both said, like, they're meant to be specialists, but they are actually quite the opposite because you do not specialize in anything. You just are okay at everything. You've got your ability, obviously. So, like, Sundance specializes in being quick, but Sundance can also do quite literally anything in the game. You can have a health crate, you can have an RPG, you can do whatever. So the weapons, it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, like you said, there's just not enough to do that. And I that is probably why they did it, I guess. Like you said, they might have just gone, we don't have enough time. Obviously, the game was obviously rushed. So, let's just open them up and
they won't notice we'd only have like
quickly
2
fix
weapons.
that. So, yeah. Yeah, and it goes back to I really just think they need to put the portal weapons in. It's just an obvious fix to me.
Easy win.
Like, really, I'm sure there's work that goes into it, but it's much easier than making them all from scratch. Obviously, that is way easier for them, and I don't think anyone in the community is going to be like, "Oh, that sucks." I think everyone will be like, "Oh, that's so good. That's 50 extra weapons that we've got," and I feel like most of them suit the lore. Like, these are people that aren't even soldiers. They're just grabbing
Granddad's shotgun on that's been on the mantle for 40 years.
Yeah. Like, AK-47s are made in 1947. They're still used today. So an extra 20 years, is that like, weird? I don't think it is. I think any weapon that was used in, Battlefield 4 was set in 2020, wasn't it? So, any weapon that's used now, surely, I'm sure they'll upgrade by 2042 in real life, but I'm pretty sure there'll be stuff used today that will still be used in 20 years. That's just how it is. So, I think it also, just suits the lore and is a quick fix for them while also being really beneficial for the game. And it's like, it's just a triple win. There's no way they can.
If governments are still using Windows 95 to run everything, I think it's fair to say that you'd still be using an AK-47 in 2042. Hopefully they do make that decision and that it is easy to implement. I think it'd be I think it just shows like how rushed and just how ill-prepared they would be if it's not possible to bring those weapons over easily. Like, if they intentionally made those 2 separate games, I think they were just shooting themselves in the foot. Pun intended.
Yeah, it seems like it should be, like, because in Portal it doesn't seem too separate, because you can have, like, you can have your 2042 character model with those guns and stuff, so there is a little bit of, like, cross, like, I guess, intermingling between 2042 content and the Portal content. So it should be possible, you would think, but at the same time, like, there's just DICE does a lot of stuff that doesn't seem like it's thinking in the future. I remember with Battlefront 2, they couldn't add extra things to the menu because they couldn't. It was like something with the way they'd set it up. They literally came out and said, we cannot add more game modes at once because we cannot put them in the system. So if it's something like that, maybe that's an issue, but you'd think it would be able to work. Surely.
And then I think they definitely have a history of this. With Battlefront 2, they said that they couldn't actually add more star cards, that they had to replace the ones that they had.
That was another one,
I think they need to look at the past and be like, you know what? That didn't work. Let's change it and make it better, instead of being like, You know what? I know we've never done this before, and the times that we have done something similar, it sucked and made everything worse. But let's try it again and see what happens. It could work out nicely this time. Another thing in terms of what Temporyal, whatever you want to call him, shared a lot of details around the store, which up until this point we haven't really had anything. Period. Nothing in terms of the battle pass, nothing in terms of how skins really work. I mean, you have the missions, but that's not in terms of something that you can use like either in-game credits or like real money to get. So it's definitely interesting. What are your thoughts on this?
I thought it all looked pretty much what I expected. He goes on to say there's going to be bundles, there's going to be soldier, weapon, and vehicle cosmetics, and there's also going to be XP boosts, which I'm actually a big fan of that, even though I'm curious to see what I think a lot of people are going to say that's like pay to win. I don't think it is. XP doesn't, like, surely everyone's leveled up by now. It takes like a couple weeks to probably get to level 60, so I'm a big fan of that. I don't know if it's like, it depends on the XP boost, but I think that's fine. I've seen that in other games. And it all just seems like what you would expect, really. There's nothing really drastic in there that's like, they're not doing anything crazy. It's just selling a bunch of skins and stuff. So it all looked fine to me, and I'm actually pretty keen to see it in game. Like, you go to the store tab and there's just nothing. There's just the ultimate bundle, which I've already got. So it's just nothing there.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that we have more details, which we needed. Honestly, I hope that we get confirmation of this soon. Again, that's something that we talked about last week about what they really need to do for May. They need to have like a three-pronged approach. They need to tell us what's been fixed, what's going to be fixed, what the season pass is going to be, what's the season going to be, what content is that going to be like, and then just get those expectations set up. And I think a key part of the success of this game even further, like throughout this, I mean, if they want the success, I'm going to put it this way, the success of more good content for this game is dependent on how well it does with these bundles, these cosmetics, and these XP boosts. Again, I don't think XP boosts are going to be a huge thing, because who's going to use an XP boost if they don't really do a whole lot?
Yeah. I think the game's been out long enough that we're all pretty much leveled up, and even if someone's new and they buy the game, like I don't think that many people are gonna use it. So it's kind of weird to see that in there, but maybe that's one of those things that they had it in because they didn't expect it to be 8 months until we got content. So maybe initially, like, maybe I would have used an XP boost at launch, but that's not how it went.
But yeah, the people that are still playing are gonna be
yeah,
they're gonna be high level. Like, they're not gonna be using an XP boost. Or they're going to use it because they got banned and they signed up another account. In terms of those cosmetics in patch 4.0, excluding already shown or released skins like Far Strike, there's going to be a skin for the K30, a Rao headgear, Nightbird skin, and then 3 universal camos. And they say some of them might be rewards for weekly missions, but they don't have any details or dates on that.
Yeah, I think those skins actually look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of the skins in this game. Maybe not so much the specialist skins, but the weapon skins. They're all like flashy enough that they look cool, but they're not like, pink neon that just doesn't suit the world. Like, they look somewhat realistic. Maybe not, there was the purple sniper the other day. That's maybe not that realistic, but it also doesn't look too in your face, I guess. So, I'm a big fan of those skins.
Same here. I think I like you have liked the direction that they've taken most of the skins and stuff. I mean, some of the specialist skins are hit or miss, but I mean, they did the best thing possible with the
McKay.
Yeah. What was that one called?
One, yeah. I want to say the Steadfast, but that might have been the bundle. I don't know.
It was one of those. It was in that bundle where you get, like, if you pre-ordered it and did all that fun stuff. That was great. It was great. It covered his stupid face.
Yeah, that's a good skin.
As long if only it muted him, that'd be great. I pay money for that.
Yeah, same.
They also have shared Battlefield coins again, which they're the same structure that they were in Battlefield 5. So again, this could be something that they're more than likely this is something that they're implementing into the game, but it could also be another thing like previously. It could just be a carryover from a previous version where it has references to Battlefield 5. Again, more than likely it is going to be Battlefield coins, and that's going to be the how they run everything in the store. But again, this is data mined, so it could be mentioning to something else. It could be a previous build. It could be something entirely different, but more than likely it'll be in the game.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the case with all the stuff that Temporyal tweets. It's like, I essentially believe everything that he tweets because he's been pretty much correct on everything.
Yeah.
But you also just have to be like, but it could be it could be something that's from the previous files or whatever. So you always got to take it with a grain of salt. But I'd imagine,
it seems very likely.
I'd imagine that's what it's going to be. Yeah.
I thought one thing that he shared on the 26th, they shared UI/HUD portraits of the 2042 AI soldiers were added to the client. This is their speculation. Bots might be able to join player squads in the future. Be interesting. I think that would. I think it would help with how little people there have been in certain matches. I think ultimately that'd be good.
I agree with that. I think it should kind of the same as how the vehicles work. Maybe your squad is automatically filled, and then if someone joins it, that bot just gets kicked straight away. Yeah. So I think that's a good change because it is kind of rough every time you're in a game and it's there's 3 spare spots on your team and you're just in a squad that has no one in it, and it kind of sucks because you can't spawn on anyone. So I think that's a change that it wouldn't interfere with anything, and it would be helpful. Yeah,
definitely. Another thing I think would be cool, they say test files hint a new Blizzard weather effect for the map Breakaway. Again, in terms of what the payoff is technically, I'd rather have destruction over weather effects, but it'd be cool I think it'd be really fun to help with the visuals on that map to have a Blizzard effect. I think that'd be pretty cool, visually.
Yeah, it definitely sounds cool to me. I'm completely the same as you. I would prefer, destruction and plenty of other things than weather effects, but I also do think they're pretty cool, and they also are a nice change of pace. I remember in Battlefield 1 with the sandstorm.
Yeah.
It does change the way you play. If you're sniping, you kind of go, oh damn, I kind of have to change what I'm doing, and it forces you to every game just feels a lot more different when the map changes like that. So it's definitely not on my priority list, but I would not be mad if they go ahead with it.
Exactly. And kind of the final thing for this episode, how have you been enjoying Battlefield since the changes?
I've been enjoying it a lot. I kind of had a month off before that update, pretty much when I think it would have been, the March update when there was just nothing happened, and we got the McKay skin and stuff, but nothing really changed. When that happened, I was kind of okay, I need things to be progressing to enjoy the game. If I am playing and I know that next month it's going to be even better, then I'll feel some sort of attachment to the game. But when nothing changed like that, it was okay, I'm just going to have a break until the next update. So I took some time off, and then I've actually had the itch every day since update 4.0 to come back and play. And it feels a lot more stable. It's obviously there's still so much to be done, but it feels honestly feels like a different game than it did a month ago. It's so much more stable. The performance is a lot better. Especially I've heard on PC, but even on the Series X, it just runs a bit smoother. There's no more it just feels like there's no more bugs. There's going to be some, I'm sure, but I haven't run into anything so far, and I've probably played nearly every day. So it feels a lot better. There's still, like we said, the specialist issues. The maps still kind of suck. there's still a lot wrong with the game, and I think the vehicles are still a little bit overpowered. But in terms of just like getting out there and just like, you know, shooting my gun at people, it feels really fun. I think the gunplay feels a lot better now, and the movement feels good.
Yeah.
So it's just very playable now, which is good. And hopefully the May update doubles down on that. What about you? Have you been playing much since 4.0?
I play a little bit more. I enjoy it. Like, it's no longer to the point where I'm like, oh, this sucks. I'm going to have to restart my game. It's going to not perform well. I'm not going to do well. So it's like, I'm past that side of things, like mentally. Now that the game is in a playable state, it just shows very clearly the lacking in terms of the core mechanics and the map design. Ultimately, yeah, you can play it now, but it's still going to be like, it's going to be frustrating at that point, but you're no longer fighting the game to have a good time. Like, I've actually had a few games where I'm like, that was really fun. I'm going to play this again. And there have been like, since launch, I don't think I've ever played the game like consecutively 2 days in a row, and I've done that.
Yeah. That's spot on. I reckon you said it perfectly. You're not fighting against the game. Like, it's it actually feels like it wants you to have fun.
Yeah.
And the map, like I said, the maps are still, you know, they're kind of busted, and I do still think the vehicles need another nerf.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm still dying to vehicles, like half of my deaths. So yeah, there's still a long way to go, but it's a massive. It's not even just like a little improvement. I think I would say it's a massive improvement than it was a month ago. And I think if they, you know, we can't expect every update to be that big. I think the next one will be a lot smaller. But if they can just make sure that every single update it is getting better, and then I think once we start getting content, it'll be I think the game can still be turned around. So it's definitely positive, but still a lot of work to be done, I think.
Yeah, now you can actually look at the game and say, "Oh, hey, this is what I like to see, this is what I don't like," instead of being like, "Well, I can't even tell if this is the game bugging out for me or if it's an actual core mechanic that I have an issue with."
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that the game now feels like if they add content, that will be okay. Because I think a month ago, if they added a new map, it would just be like, yeah, that's cool, but the game still is just not good.
I 100%
Whereas now it's
agree
like,
with
okay,
that.
yeah, now it feels like, you know, I do still think the specialists and the maps and stuff are probably a priority right now over content in terms of making the game more enjoyable. But if they add a map, you know, we know they're not going to, but if they add a map next month, I'll be like, okay, this is really good now. Like, the game feels ready to accept content, I guess. So
yeah,
that's a big positive for me.
That is a great way to put it. It's ready to add content to, which you couldn't say the previous entirety of the game's life cycle.
Yeah.
Like every single 100%. Thing, like in terms of the priority list, it was like those bugs 1, some of the core mechanics like specialist number 2, and then content is number 3. I at this point, I still think they should be focusing, like, honestly, they should put more direction into adding and creating new maps. And honestly, at this point, they could get rid of those old maps and then just keep on going at that. Maybe they have a smaller team that's working on the reworks of those old maps, but if they focus that manpower into creating new content, new maps, I think that would be the better payoff ultimately.
Yeah, I agree. Because even though I said I think specialists and that are more important for the enjoyment, I think I do still think content is the number one thing for keeping the game going and moving forward. So they can add a heap of content and that will generate hype, even though we all still aren't happy with the specialist system. Whereas, you know, I think most of us want the specialist system fixed more than anything. But if they do that and they're not putting out content, I'm not sure that's really worth it. So they do have to strike that balance of, we need to get some new stuff while also, like, you need to also fix the current issues. So yeah, it's going to be a hard thing to balance, but hopefully they said that everyone's still working there. So hopefully there's enough manpower that, you know, if that is true, that they can have a content team and a fixing team essentially.
Yeah.
And just kind of manage both things at once.
Yep, I agree. It's in the best spot it's been in the time since launch. It still needs those reworks, but I think content is so valuable and so important, and I hope that we at least get it announced that what we're going to be getting in the future. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, 100%. That's, like we said last week, that's something that's really important for me. They just need to, they don't have to say exactly what we're getting, just give us some outline of what's to come so that we can, set our expectations early. And I don't want to get to the day before season 1 and be like, oh, damn, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to, if it sucks, because I'm not expecting season 1 to be amazing. They're still reworking so many things. But if they tell me that now, then I've got a month or two to accept it. And then when it comes, then I'll probably still feel a bit more excited because I'll be like, okay, I accepted that a month ago, and now I'm ready to just get the content. Whereas, if they tell us, on the dawn of season 1, it's like, oh man, that kind of kills the hype of actually getting the content. So that's a big thing that they need to do.
Yeah. I'm excited though. Like, I think it's got some legs to it, and I'm excited to see where it's going to be going in the future. But I think with that, we're going to call this episode an end. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of The Battlefield Show. We'd like to thank Ethan Clark for the beautiful thumbnail. If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review and subscribe on YouTube to both of our channels, and catch us wherever you find podcasts. As always, we'll see you on the battlefield.